So Kathleen Kennedy has been destroyed once again, and it seems like this is happening over and over again with people who know a lot about Star Wars, people who are involved in the creation of the original Star Wars or the prequel trilogy, actors who were on the set of the original trilogy, stars of the original trilogy like Mark Hamill. They continue just going after Kathleen Kennedy and people like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, who straight up did kind of ruin a lot of Star Wars when it comes to the sequel trilogy. Let's check it out. So like I said, this is nothing new, but once again, people are going after people who worked on the original trilogy, people who know a lot or should know a lot about Star Wars, people who are very involved in the creation of the Star Wars that are pretty much universally loved when it comes to the original trilogy. People who were actually very involved in the creation of those movies are coming after Kathleen Kennedy, coming after J.J. Abrams once again. And this person is George Lucas's ex-wife, Marcia Lucas. She says, this article from IndieWire, and it says Star Wars editor Marcia Lucas. It says Star Wars editor. She was the editor or an editor on the original trilogy. And in fact, George Lucas himself has come out and said that if she wasn't there, then the movies would have been way worse. Apparently Marcia Lucas, and this is coming from George Lucas himself. Apparently Marcia Lucas saved A New Hope, saved the original trilogy if she wasn't there, as well as Harrison Ford. He also helped out on the dialogue a lot. But apparently if Marcia Lucas wasn't there, then the original trilogy wouldn't have been half as good as it was. So Marcia Lucas had a big part to play in the creation of the original trilogy and also how good the original trilogy was. But this article says Star Wars editor Marcia Lucas slams Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. They don't have a clue. So she's not just saying that the Star Wars or the Disney trilogy of Star Wars isn't very good. She's directly going after Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. So we're not crazy. You know, she should know a lot. She knows George Lucas. She is very involved in Star Wars when it comes to the original trilogy. She knows the ins and outs of Hollywood because she worked on the original trilogy. She's worked in Hollywood. She knows who's in charge. So whenever we go after J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, and I don't know why she excludes Rian Johnson in this, because she even does go after The Last Jedi a bit. But even Rian Johnson, you know, I'm a Rian Johnson fan. I don't like what he did with Star Wars all that much, but I think he's a good filmmaker outside of his Star Wars movie. I just think that he kind of lost his way a bit with The Last Jedi. I don't know why he chose to do the certain things that he did, but I don't think that it's all his fault. I definitely think he deserves to get some of the blame, but not as much as J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy deserve. So I think that's kind of why Marcia Lucas went after J.J. and Kathleen Kennedy specifically, and not really Rian Johnson, but she did say that they don't have a clue. Marcia Lucas is no fan of the Disney produced Star Wars movies. While being interviewed for J.W. Rinsler's just published book on The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, film producer Howard, I don't know how to say his last name, Lucas slammed current Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy and director J.J. Abrams for their storyline decisions. The choice to kill off Han Solo and Luke Skywalker particularly made Lucas upset. That's what a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people have a problem with Han Solo dying, because I think we know what was happening outside of the movies. The fact that Harrison Ford did want to get killed off, I believe, ever since The Empire Strikes Back, and he was never granted that wish. So to bring him back for another movie, he either probably said, hey, if I'm going to come back to these movies, you have to kill me off in the first episode, or maybe they just wanted to grant him that wish that he's been wanting ever since The Empire Strikes Back. Either way, you can kind of understand why they did it. I didn't love it narratively. You know, I didn't think it was a great narrative decision if we're just looking at it objectively without all of the outside noise coming in. But you can kind of understand why they did it from a Harrison Ford perspective, because we all know that he wanted to die for a really long time. But Lucas won an Oscar for editing the original Star Wars along with Paul Hirsch and Robert Chu. She returned to co-edit Return of the Jedi and went uncredited on The Empire Strikes Back. Prior to Star Wars, Lucas made a name for herself editing Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver and Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. She was also Oscar nominated for American Graffiti. Marcia Lucas was married to George Lucas between 1969 and 1983. And this is where she says the stuff about Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. She kind of just puts a nail in the coffin for them. I don't think Kathleen Kennedy will be at Lucasfilm for that much longer. I think she probably will renew her contract this one time, but Bob Chapek has come out himself and said that he's not going to do these long-term contracts for these studio heads anymore. It's not going to be like last time where she gets renewed for 3 more years or 4 more years, whatever it was. It'll probably be, 1 more year. I think it'll probably be 1 year, maybe like a year and a half or something like that. But either way, even if she does stay on at Lucasfilm for another 3 years, she's not going to be that involved in Star Wars. I think everyone, including probably Kathleen Kennedy, has finally realized that, she's just not cut out for Star Wars. To run Star Wars, you have to be a very specific type of person with very specific types of interest and a very specific type of skill set. And she just doesn't have that skill set. She just doesn't have the interest that Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni have. She just doesn't have that fire burning to make good Star Wars content that they have. She just wants to make money and she wants to try and please the fans, but she doesn't know how to do it, and she doesn't know what fans she really needs to please to make Star Wars successful. But here's the quote from Marcia Lucas where she talks about Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. "I like Kathleen. I always liked her," Marcia Lucas said in Rinsler's book. "She was full of beans. She was really smart and really bright, really wonderful woman, and I liked her husband Frank. I liked them a lot. Now that she's running Lucasfilm and making movies, it seems to me that Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams don't have a clue about Star Wars. They don't get it. And J.J. Abrams is writing these stories. When I saw that movie where they kill Han Solo, I was furious. I was furious when they killed Han Solo. Absolutely, positively, was no rhyme or reason to it. I thought, you don't get the Jedi story." I don't understand that part of the quote. I don't understand why she says that there's no rhyme or reason to it, because they did kind of end up tying it up in The Rise of Skywalker. It was Kylo trying to, bury the light side of himself. His dad was calling him back to the light side, and he really wanted to be, a dark side Force user, and it's hard to be a dark side Force user. It's hard to give yourself completely to the dark side whenever you have that light side calling to you. So he's trying to kill off the past, let the past die, kill it if you have to, by killing Han Solo so that he could go fully dark. Now, I don't love the fact that they killed Han Solo, but I think that there was a certain rhyme or reason to it. It just wasn't the best reason, and it wasn't the reason that everyone's looking for. It wasn't a reason that made everyone happy, but there was a reason. And also, she says you don't get the Jedi story. Han Solo wasn't a Jedi, so I don't understand that part. But anyway, I agree with what she's saying overall. I just think that some certain quotes that she gave don't necessarily add up. They don't make complete sense. But she also says you don't get the magic of Star Wars. You're getting rid of Han Solo. So yeah, I mean, I don't love the fact that they killed Han Solo either. I don't think it's a great decision, but I think that it definitely did make some sort of sense in the narrative. I think it made more sense outside of the narrative where, like I said earlier, Han Solo, or Harrison Ford himself, has been wanting to die ever since The Empire Strikes Back. So that's probably why they did it, and I think that the reason that they gave inside of the narrative wasn't perfect, it wasn't great, but there definitely was a reason in there. They definitely did give a reason. Rinsler, a former executive editor at Lucasfilm, interviewed Lucas in between the releases of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Although his book on, I can't say the name, was just published September 14th, 2021, Lucas also railed against the decision to kill Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. They have Luke disintegrate. Lucas says they killed Han Solo, they killed Luke Skywalker, and they don't have Princess Leia anymore, and they're spitting out movies every year, and they think it's important to appeal to a women's audience, so now their main character is this female who's supposed to have Jedi powers, but we don't know how she got the Jedi powers or who she is. It sucks. The storylines are terrible, just terrible, awful. You can quote me, J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, talk to me. So I think we can all kind of agree with all of these quotes overall. Like I said, some of the things that she said kind of didn't make too much sense, but maybe it has to do with the fact that The Rise of Skywalker wasn't out yet whenever she gave these quotes. But whenever she's talking about the fact that Han Solo died, the fact that they killed off Luke Skywalker, and that stuff not making sense, I can agree with her there. And also the fact that she says the stuff about Rey, that they wanted to appeal to a woman's audience, so now their main character is this female who's supposed to have Jedi powers, but we don't know how she got those powers. That's kind of I think that that's everyone's main complaint about the sequels, main overall for all three movies. I think that that's their main complaint, is the Rey being the bestest ever thing. I didn't really have that much a problem with it until I started really listening to everyone's critiques and really understanding what they mean, because yes, she was the bestest ever, and it didn't make sense that she was that powerful, and you could obviously tell if you just watch the movies very closely and you try to figure out her heritage just by watching the movies, you can tell that they went back and forth with each movie of whose kid she really was, of who she's related to, and then they finally landed on Palpatine in the end. But I don't think that that was ever the plan. I think that that might have been an option, but I think that she was definitely going to be a Kenobi, or maybe even Han Solo's kid. I think that they kind of hinted towards that in The Force Awakens, but I don't think they ever had a plan, especially for the Rey character. And then to kill off Han Solo and Luke Skywalker was kind of the nail in the coffin for the sequels. I think that that's a big complaint that a lot of people have. Like I said, I don't think it's that much of a complaint that a lot of people have with the Han Solo thing, because I think they understand what Harrison Ford truly wanted. But with the Luke Skywalker thing, nobody wanted that. You know, no Star Wars fans wanted that. Mark Hamill didn't want that. No one wanted it, and they gave it to us just to subvert our expectations, and no one liked it. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. What do you think about Marcia Lucas saying this stuff about the sequel trilogy, saying this stuff about Kathleen Kennedy that we've been saying all along? But it always does feel good to have someone who is on our side that actually does know what they're talking about when it comes to especially Star Wars, but when it comes to writing, when it comes to editing in Hollywood, when it comes to Hollywood in general. But also, she's an expert on Star Wars. Like George Lucas said himself, that if she wasn't involved in the original trilogy, it wouldn't have been half as good as it was. So let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. If you did enjoy this video though, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, links to that will be in the description as well. Thank you for watching the video. Hope to see you in the next one.